Welcome to Amigurumi Castillo. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain how to make the face details for this Margarita doll collection. So, if you haven't made this collection yet, check out the videos on this channel. You can find Polly, Victoria, Sophie, and Genesis already available. So, get all your favorite materials ready because we're going to crochet. And if you're enjoying this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the face details for these little dolls. We're going to do it in two ways. You can add the safety eyes before finishing the crocheting, and you can add them after the crocheting is complete. We're going to make all these parts. The ears, everything you see here. The head is obviously part of our base body, which is already complete here on our channel, and you can visit it here. These are simply the details for the Margarita collection. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the list of materials we need. It's this 1mm dark brown yarn, 2mm white yarn, light brown embroidery floss less than 1mm thick. Actually, it's half of 1mm thick, blush for the cheeks, and a tapestry needle. That's what we'll need. Let's get started. If you're one of those people who attach the eyes before closing the head to secure the safety pin, I'll explain the step. I decided to do this part because some people do use the safety pin. I don't use it because it often comes off. I don't know if it's the quality, I don't know, but I always prefer to make the little hole. Put silicone in it and press it in. But I'm going to show you when you're making the head of the basic body that's here on my channel, when you do round 22, which is the increased round. Look, this is round 22, where we do 5 single, 7 increases, 10 single crochets, 7 increases, and 37 single crochets. Right? When you do this round, so you can use it as a guide for placing the eyes. How are you going to place them? Okay. First, I'll find here. These are the increases we made, right? We made, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 stitches. And here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. In group of increases, we have 10 stitches of separation. So we're going to find the center, which will be 5. Count side 1, 2, 3, and 5. This is the 5th one, and you're going to go up 1 and 2 rows. You're going to place it on this row, since this is the halfway point here, right? The eyes will be 6 stitches apart, okay? So, I'm going to turn the knitting like this. This is the halfway point, okay? So, since they'll be 6 stitches apart, you're going to go over this side 1. Look, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And place the eyes so that 3 stitches are visible. Because if you just go over it, obviously the little eye, look, here I'm going to take this one out. Here you place the eye. Look, so that 1, 2, and 3 are visible from the center. And then you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you're going to place the other eye here. Right? So you place the other little eye here. So let me put the other little eye in so you can see. If you place it this way, as I'm showing you, look, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 stitches visible. Okay, so that's where you'll place the eyes. And obviously, you'll add the safety hooks size. And if you're like me and you add the eyes after you finish the head, keep in mind that these are safety eyes. But as VA mentioned in previous videos, I don't usually add the safety hooks because they often come off, okay? So what I do is make a little hole, like I'm going to show you in a moment. Now, okay, if you add the eyes after the head is formed, you'll be able to identify them. Look, you can clearly see the increases here. I'm going to turn it like this because that's how it's crocheted. Look, here it is. This is row 22, I think. Row 22, where we made the increases. Remember. Here's the group of 7 increases, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches. So, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and I go up. Look, here it is. 1, 2, 3, 5 stitches, and I go up to rows. From this row, where the increases are, I go up 1 and 2 rows, and I put the separators so I have a view of where I'm going to put the eye. Okay? So, what am I going to do? We're going to count. We're going to leave 6 stitches of separation between eyes. So, how do we place them? Look, these also depends a lot on the diameter of the eyes, because obviously if you use smaller or larger eyes than these, obviously you're going to have more or less space. These eyes here measure 1 cm in diameter. Okay? Now, having said that, since I already have half placed here, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to put it in here. Here I'm going to put 1 eye in. And from here, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Here it would be, here I'm going to put the other eye. So here, I'm going to prick myself. Look, here I'm going to put a pin because here I'm going to put the other eye. Okay, so that's how I'm going to count. Okay, so to have 6 stitches of separation. Once the eyes are in place, I must leave 9 stitches. 9 stitches of separation between the marks. So, what do I do? First, what I do very delicately, I'm going to make the hole without breaking it. What do I mean delicately? I mean that I don't break the stitch, but here I open the stitch and make a little hole like this. Look, and there I'm going to place the eye. No, now I'm going to place it like this. So here too, look, I'm going to open the stitch like this and place the little eye. Look, like this. And if you notice, when placing the eyes, look how many stitches we have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have exactly 6 stitches left. Look, if you do it like this, then the cheeks will be square. Everything will look good. So, the next step I take is to put silicone here. I'll show you how. Now, as I was saying, I'm going to put the silicone on so you can see how I do it. So, since I already have the little stitch here, I insert the tweezers a little bit. I make the hole a little bigger so it looks like this. And then I put a little bit of silicone here. I put it on like this. Look, this is how I put the hot silicone. Look, a little button. And then I put the little eye here like this and I hold it for a little while. That's it. How I attach the eyes, and they've never come off. They stay there for a long time. I'm going to do the same thing with the other eye, and that's it. Look, there we have our little eyes securely attached. Now, the next step to make the face is to thread the yarn. This is thick. Same thickness of yarn as this color, but white. So we're going to come out here. Look. Right where the eye touches it. Look, there's this little row, isn't there? We're going to prick ourselves in this little row here, okay? So, I'm going to go in down here and come out here. Look, I'm going to come out here. So, I'm going to make 3 stitches that include 1 and 2 rows, right? So that it doesn't go in too far down here under the eye. No, just enough to touch the eye, to go around the eye a little, which would be here. So I'm going to make the stitch there and the other one will come out next to this one I just made. Look, like this. Are primera makeit. I don't pull too tight, so it doesn't get too tight. Look. Now I'm going to make another stitch here and then another one. That's 3 stitches in total. Show. I prick myself next to this one and come out below next to the other one. Look. And I pull. I'm going to do the other one the same way. I'll prick here. I'll prick here. And now I'm going to come out here, look where I came in, but on the other side, here, like at the inner corner of the eye. Okay? So I prick here, and I'm going to come right here. Look, we don't pull too hard, just like this. So it looks like this. Look, we made 1, 2, 3 stitches that have 2 rows that contain 2 rows, right? Now I'm going to make 1 or 2 stitches here, but they won't contain 2 rows, just 1 row so that the inner corner comes out smaller. So I prick here and I'm going to come out next to the first stitch. I made like this. Look, I pull and look, I already have 1 stitch left. And the other stitch like this. You can see that it's kind of diagonal, a little bit, that turns around. And I'm going to move to the other side because I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing I did on this other eye. Look, like this. So I'm going to repeat this process. In this A, it would be the same here. 1 and 2 stitches that contain 1 row. Then go. Here to the corner and do 1, 2, and 3 stitches that contain 2 rows, just like we did here. And that's it. Look, I've already done my 3 stitches here, 3 stitches here, and 2 for the tear ducts. And since I'm not going to use this strand anymore, I'll finish it off down here, like this. See, look, I can underscore a little bit from the inside of the headlay like this. Make a little knot. Pass the strand around the needle, pull, a little knot forms, and then I prick myself and it comes out. Somewhere else, look, and the strand simply disappears. Then we cut this strand like this. And look, we've already done the white of the eyes. There now, we're going to do the dark part of the eyelid. So for that, I threaded this dark brown yarn. This is yarn that is about 1 millimeter thick. If you want to use embroidery floss, well, to make it thicker, or if you have that thickness, use it. You can also use black. I'm using dark brown size, so I'm going to start here. Look, from the bottom. But I'm going to start in this same row, but on the opposite side. That is, I'm going to start here, okay? So I'm starting here, look, in this part here. As I said, it's the opposite side from here. Now I'm going to make a few stitches from here to here. But from here, look, the stitch is ending. I'm going to step off one stitch from this same row and I'll insert the needle here and go back to where I started. Here, look, like this. And I'm pulling and adjusting. Right? So I'm pulling slowly. Look, like this. Size then, I'm going to make another little loop. Right, ere. I insert the needle and insert it again where I started. Look. Let's go. 2 stitches. Like this? Let's go. 1 more stitch. I'm going to make 1 more stitch. I'm going to go back to where I started. Here. Look. And it's covering up like this. I've already made 3 stitches, right? And we're going to make the last one, the 4th. I make the 4th stitch and go down here. Look where the tear duct is, where I made a stitch just below the second stitch primera ma de. Look up here. We went through it a total of 4 times. Look, we went through it 4 times. Yes. So here, I go over here, right? I'm going to make a stitch to the other end of this white area. And if you can see, there's a row below, right? I'm going to go out in the middle of this row and in the middle of this stitch. I'm not going to do it down here or up here, but in the middle of this little stitch, right in the center of that little stitch. Basically, look like this. Not there. This yarn should always be behind the needle. So, look, so that it does, excuse me. It's shifted so that it creates this effect. Look, there. So, I lifted like this, and where I made the stitch SI, I prick myself again there, and now I'm going to go out here to the other end, so I can make the music little tabs here, and I pull from here. Look, that's how I adjust it and pull. Look, and now it's there. This is how this part here should look. Look, right? So now, I'm going to make the tabs here. Since I'm here, I'm going to go 1 and 2 stitches horizontally. Look, 1 and 2 stitches, and I go in here and out 1 row. I go in here and out 1 row higher. Look, that's how I go back to the center, here where I started, and I'm going to come out 1 row lower. Instead of the middle stitch, I'm going to come out 1 row lower. Like this, look, and then I go back to the center. Again, and I'm going to move to the other side. To do this, I'm basically going to do the same thing. Okay? Let me get it right where I want it. There, look. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did here. I'm going to do the same thing here. So, from here, look, from here, I make separate stitches. From area 1, stitch. I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 3. Then I move over here, and from here to here, I make a stitch with a stitch in the center so that it looks like this. And then I make the eyelashes using this as a guide, right? And we're going to do that, replicate it on the other eye. Done. Look, I've finished making the other eye. Now I'm going to do the eyebrows. Okay, so to make the eyebrows, look, I went outside here. Look, from this row, if you see there are 1, 2, and 3 rows. 3 rows, right? And from ere, look, the eye begins. If you see it set back a tiny bit more to the left, it's not right here on the edge, but a tiny bit further on. So, what am I going to do when I go up 3 rows with 1 more stitch here? I'm going to count 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and go down 1 row and pick up the loop size, and I'm going to do the same thing in the eye here. Look, go out a little beyond the end. Like this, look. And in the same way here, I count 1, 2, and 3. And how is it? I go down 1 row. And then with this, since I'm not going to use it anymore, I'm going to bring it out from here underneath so I can finish it off just like I finished off the previous white yarn. Look. And here we have the eyebrows. We're going to finish off this yarn. So we're practically done with the eyes. Now we're going to make the nose. Okay? So the nose is going to go from this row. Look, it's from the little eyes. Here, I'm going to go down 1 row for the eyes. Okay, but I'm going to go in from here so that the nose is in the center here, taking up space like this. Look, right. We're working on these little stitches here. There are about 4 stitches because I'm leaving a half stitch at the beginning of each one. Look, I'm leaving a half stitch here and a half stitch there, right? And primera make this stitch. When I make this stitch, I'm going to start wrapping the yarn around this stitch with the other side of the needle. How am I going to do it? I go under like this. Look. Right? And I keep wrapping. I pull. I hold the yarn here with my finger as I go so it doesn't move from where I want it to wrap. Then size, I adjust it again, hold it, and look. I'm doing this. I go down, hold it, and go over here. Look. Look how it's wrapping around this stitch. That's how I do it, and that's how I finish. Look, wrapping this whole little part here. Tate se how? How? We keep wrapping, and we're almost done. There. Now I'm going to do another pass. That is, I'm going to go over that stitch I made. I'm going to go over it again with the same method. Look, I'm holding it and it's becoming uniform. And like that until I finish. So, look, here I finished. So, I'm going to go from here, from the first stitch, to the second one we made right like this. I pull a little bit and I'm just going to finish it off here, right? I'm going to take a little bit of yarn, but just a tiny bit. Look, just a tiny bit. I pass the needle around. Sorry, the yarn around the needle, I pull so that a little knot forms, and right here, I prick myself and come out underneath. I'm going to come out underneath now. Leave me with the tweezers here. It's gotten hard now. I pull. Look, the little knot is disappearing there. I lift it a little. That's how it tightens. When, I do this. And now we'd have, look, the little nose like this. Right, so erevego, okay. Let's leave this strand in here. It'll do, it's very short now. We'll use it as stuffing. Okay, now we're going to make the mouth. To make the mouth, I'm using this embroidery thread. Look, how thin it is, and it's a very light brown, right? So I'm making the mouth very delicate. Actually, in many amigurumi, I don't even make a mouth, but in this one, I wanted to give it a little smile. Okay, so, what am I going to do? Look, from this row, I'm going to go down 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 5, and 5. And here's where I'm going to place. Like this stitch has 4 stitches. I'm going to place the 2 center stitches of the nose to make this mouth. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would be here more or less. I'm going to insert the needle. Here, look. Not like this. So this mouth will have 1 and 2 stitches. So, I prick myself here, and on the row below, I come out in the middle. I more or less do the same process I did here, right? Then I come out below so that I get that little flirty, very subtle smile. Look! Look! The mouth is so tiny, so I prick myself right here, and I'm going to come out. Down here. Look. So, that's it. That's how the little mouth looks. It's very, as I said, very simple. Very flirty. So, that's the mouth. I'm going to finish off this yarn. And that's it. Look. Tatese. Basically, the face, here on the face, we still need the blush. And now we're going to do the ears. Right? This face pattern is for the collection I'm making, the Margarita collection. All the dolls you see that say Margarita collection. For example, we already have Pauli, so go and see Pauli. We have Sophie, we have Victoria, and Genesis. We already have 4 dolls with different outfits and different hairstyles. Deon, Li, Ting. That would be the base of the whole body and face, right? And the hair, that changes, and the hair and the clothes. Well, so if you haven't seen those videos, go watch videos. Now we're going to do the ears, right? First, we're going to use some pins to mark the spots so we don't make a mistake. Okay, I have some pins here, and well, let's get our bearings. First, let's get our bearings starting from the eyelashes. The eyelashes have 1, 2, and 3. The third one. From the third one, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'll pin myself there. Look, I'm on the same row as this eyelash. Okay. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 5, and 5 stitches. But I don't continue here. Look. It's right here below, isn't it? But this stitch, I'm going to go 1 stitch further in here on the face. So it becomes a diagonal stitch, and I'm going to do the same here. right? I'm going to count the same way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll insert the needle here, and then I'll go in the same way. I'm going to count from here. 1, 2, 3, una cuarta parte, and I'll insert a stitch. Look, here's a thread that I don't know what it is. Well, dele. And then in those positions that I've placed, I'm going to knit the ears. Okay, how am I going to do it? I'm going to take the same shade of sugary yarn that I still have here, a little bit, size, and, well, that's what I wanted to tell you. This yarn is the new one I told you about. The version that this one is called Nak. The previous one, if you look at it, is a little pinker. The previous one I used was now Slim Sport. The thickness is almost the same. It really is the same. But this one feels a bit stiffer. I don't know. I liked this one better. Okay, so let's continue with the little ears. And here, I'm going to insert the needle right where this pin is. Look where the pin is. I'm going to insert the needle and I'm going to underscore a stitch in that row. I want to underscore that row like this. I take that row and I'm going to insert what would be the yarn. Okay? So let's get nice and tidy. I take the yarn, look, I pass it through that stitch. I make a chain here. First, I make a chain, like this. Look, as I'm crocheting, I'm going to weave this strand in. Once it disappears into the crochet, I bring it to the front. So, where I made the chain, they're in that same stitch where I just underscore. I'm going to underscore again. Look, I'm going to go back into the stitch and I'm going to make a single crochet. Like this, and I make a single crochet. Look. I did this here. I picked up a stitch, made a chain, and then made a single crochet right there. What primera, wa en tu. To notice is that we're going to be crocheting one stitch per row because we're going to do a single crochet, which I already did, then 2 half double crochets and 2 double crochets. So if you see that it's not straight, I've marked it, but rather diagonal. So I'm going to crochet diagonally until I get to this point here. Okay, so I made this single crochet here, right? I put the yarn over here so it continues to disappear. Now I'm going to make a half double crochet. I yarn over. Look, I yarn over like this and exhales. I'd pick up the stitch here. Look, the one next to this one area, insert the hook and pick up the next row. The row is actually the one I'm picking up, right? You pick up T row, pull through, look, and now I have a half double crochet here. I yarn over. Insert the hook right here and go diagonally. Look, and I do the other one. Oh, I didn't go through it here. Music, wait for me. This loop has to be here. I do the same thing, right? Like I was doing. The loop through, and I do another half double crochet. Look, I already did 1 single crochet and 2 stitches. 2 half double crochet. Now I have 2 rows that I'm going to finish working on. Right? So I yarn over. Now it's my turn to do the double crochet. Look, I'm going diagonally now. I yarn over like this. I'm going to do a double crochet. I yarn over again. Pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through these 2 loops. Sigh, and I'm going to do my last stitch, which would be here where the pin is, which I'm going to take out now. So I'm going to do another double crochet where the pin was, right? So, look, I make a loop, I insert it here, I go up here, I pull up 3 loops. I knit 2, and look, it wouldn't be like this. So, here, I'm going to make a chain. This strand that I was losing, you can easily insert it into the knitting, for example. I can insert it like this. I can insert it here at this little point. Look. No. So I pull this strand out here so I can cut it better. Look. So music, we pull it a little so it disappears better, and here we cut the excess. There. So that little strand disappears, right? Now, the little ears are super delicate, right? They're just going to stay like this. Now I'm going to leave here some yarn, more or less 10, 20, 30, 40, about 50 centimeters, more or less. 60 centímetros. Let's leave it. I'm leaving a good amount of strand. I cut the strand. I pull this strand. I'm going to thread the needle again to go to the other side. Done. So, I've already inserted, look, the needle. So, where I made the last stitch, I'm going to prick myself and come out where this pin is. And look, I've already gone to the other side. So now we have one little ear. I don't like to make these dolls' ears too big. Really, if you want to make it bigger or with more stitches, just add more stitches there. Okay, now, look, we're going to make the ear here. Okay. So, the next thing we're going to do is this. What I'm going to do here is start the opposite. Remember that we started here with one single crochet, 2 half double crochets, and 2 double crochet. Since I'm here, I should start with 2 double crochets, 2 half double crochets, and finish with 1 single crochet, right? Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is this, and I'm going to continue crocheting row by row, picking up stitches diagonally until I get here. So here where this stitch is, this row, I'm going to underscore like this, and look, I'm going to pull up a chain. Primera cha ingwan, yarn over, and where I picked up this stitch, look where I inserted myself. Basically, what I'm going to do, wait a minute, it's not here, it's here. I'm inserting myself in front, right here, where I inserted myself. Oh, but I didn't pick up the loop. Yarn over, insert the hook here where I initially entered, and make a double crochet. I'm going to make the double crochet. I have 2 more. Yarn over and crochet. Primera maqué. Another double crochet, but in the next row, insert the hook here, pick up the next row, and look, I make another double crochet. I'm going to make a half double crochet, but here I insert the hook and then I go down half diagonally to get to this point. And I make a half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook here. Insert the hook here, and I'm going to make another half double crochet. I'm removing the pin now because I'm going to insert the hook here to make the single crochet. So I pick it up here, insert the needle, and come out here where the needle was and make my single crochet. I make a chain, and that's it. Now I'm going to thread the needle and go in here. So here I'm just going to go in where I made this stitch. I come out here. Side look. I pull it in a little bit. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to finish off. I'm going to underscore a little bit of yarn. Since it's the same color, it's not noticeable. I'm going to make a little knot here. I go in here and come out through any other point, just to cut the yarn. We've cut the yarn. Done. Let me insert the needle here. And that's it. Look, here we're going to pull out a little bit, where we pulled the needle. It's kind of tucked in, and that's it. Look, there's one loop and there's the other loop. Look, one loop and the other loop. It looks like this there. So, here we have the 2 little ears. There, and well, the ears are done, and the details of the face are finished. Right? So, this is the basics we're going to do for the little doll. And, well, we also know how to add blush. Here, I'm using this fabric paint. I'll show you. Look at this one here. It's even very inexpensive. I bought it on sale. It costs $1.5, but I bought it for $75 here in Ecuador at Superpeco. I bought this dye that for fabrics or textiles, to be more precise, right? It's for fabrics, textiles, all that. Okay. So, you really only need a tiny drop. Not even a drop. You mix it with water because it needs to be quite runny to apply. Look, here, I've mixed it a little bit. Look how runny it is. Then I add blush because sometimes the client might wash out the figure. I don't know. And it might look too natural if we only use blush, which is for us. So you can use a brush or just your finger. You can do that. Look, here I have a brush. So you take a little bit and put it here. Like a little blush. Look, it's like it soaks up the paint. Look, when you put it on thin, it soaks up the paint on its own. That's why I like to make it quite thin, because you can control the intensity when you put it on too thin, it gets dark, but then it soaks up the paint and gets lighter. So it gives more of a blush effect, in my opinion. I really like this paint. And the good thing is that when it dries, if it hits wet, it comes off because it's fabric paint. So you're going to do both sides like this. You can do it however you want. Look, you can even blend it a little, and that's the blush on your face. I usually put it on both cheeks and a little bit up here. Look, above the nose. It's like it gives it a little bit up. Yes, it gives it a different effect. I don't know. I like to put the blush up here on the nose. Actually, so you put it here like this. It makes the doll look cuter, more flirty. There. So, look, putting a little blush like this would finish it up. Let's do the other side. And that's it. Look, this is how our doll's face looks now. Well, I hope you liked it. As I said at the beginning, I decided to make this video so it's not mixed in with the tutorials, because sometimes it is a little complicated to go and look in another tutorial how to make the face and everything. And it's also very complicated for us knitters who create content to repeat the same process in every video. So, primera decid to make a separate video so you can always have access to this video on how to make the face. Sai and I also made a separate video of the underwear, whether it's top and the cheeky panties that our doll would be wearing, always the same model in all the versions, right? Well, I hope you liked this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and activate the bell so you get notifications when I upload a new video. That helps us grow a lot. And also share this video. Leave us a message. That way you help us continue growing our channel, and so we can continue creating this content that is exclusive to you and free of charge. It's also very important to take care of our hands. Use lotion because yarn always dries out your hands. Take active breaks. Do your exercises to avoid any kind of injury in our hands. So, well, see you in the next video. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.